Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And this afternoon, we got a lovely soul from across the pond. To those who recognize her, she appeared on the hit TV show called Ancient Aliens in the Reptilian Agenda episode in 2019. Her name's Charmaine D'Rozario-Saytch. For those that recognize the name, her story appears in the book called Meet the Hybrids, which I have right here. It's called Meet the Hybrids, The Lives and Missions of ET Ambassadors on Earth. My girlfriend read it and she really enjoyed it. So when I recognized the name and I saw Charmaine online, I knew I had to get her on. For those who don't know Charmaine, she is an ET human hybrid, Mantis, line being, but mostly reptilian. She has always had ET experiences and abductions and also spiritual and paranormal phenomena occur around her. She has also had negative encounters with military, secret societies, some ETs, and MILAB experiences. Charmaine has hybrid children that she does not have access to due to them being held by the military and secret societies. She works closely with various positive ET groups for the benefit of humanity, including the Galactic Federation, who have encouraged her to start an organization to bridge the divide between humanity, hybrids, and aliens. The Galactic Federation also wished her to start a health and education retreat center with cutting-edge alternative therapies, support, counseling, and regression for experiencers, abductees, and hybrids, as well as facilities of courses, workshops, conferences, art gallery, multimedia center, library, and space for other practitioners to facilitate in improving and maintaining people's health and well-being. Charmaine offers various services including nutrition, emotional freedom technique, intuitive healing body work and massage, life coaching, Reiki healing, and courses. She is a reptilian human hybrid who has had shapeshift into reptilian form at least twice. Charmaine talks about her experiences with reptilians, various ET groups, secret societies, and deep black elements of the military. Wow. You've been through a lot, Charmaine. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to be here with you.
So you've, I guess you're like one of us, really. You've, your experiences started off as a child. Can you get into that?
Yes. I mean, for me, I didn't realize that it was an odd thing. You know, I had a reptilian little boy that grew up with me, and I just thought everyone had, you know, because people talk about invisible friends, don't they?
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, you know, everyone had this little boy with green scales and slits for eyes. You know, I thought that was normal. And it was only when I was at school and as children, you know, you talk about things. Yeah. I'd say a few things and people would sort of look at me and the children would say, we've never seen anything like that. So I, at that point as a child, realized that the experiences I was having was very, very different, you know, and I then started to question, so why am I having these experiences? Why am I different and the other children are not having, you know, a little friend come and visit them every day? I was also seeing other ETs that would mostly come at night. I remember on one occasion, I had a grey at the end of my cot, so I could see it through the wooden bars. And I had a little towel. And the grey was just playing a game of moving the towel, going kind of Bebo, you know, as you would with a child. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was perfectly normal. And then suddenly realised, oh, it's not so normal. And I would see a lot of ghosts, you know, spirits. Mm-hmm. So my great-grandmother, for example, she had been dead 8 years when I was born, and she used to come and sit in the bedroom with me. And I'd talk away to her about this, that, and something else, and my mother would come in and say, who are you talking to? Oh. I'd say, oh, I'm talking to the lady on the bed. So she would come into the bedroom of an evening and just sit on the bed and talk to me. So I just thought she was a normal person. I didn't actually realise that she was a ghost. So we'd sit there talking, and my mother came in and said, oh, who are you talking to? And I said, oh, the lady sitting on the bed, obviously, thinking that my mother could see her, and she couldn't. So she said, well, what does the lady look like? So I described her hair and what she was dressed in. And my mother got a photograph and said, is this the same lady? And I said, oh, yes. Can't you see her? my mother said, no, I can't. And that picture was a picture of my great-grandmother, who had died in 1980, and I was born in 1988. So when she used to come and visit me, I must have been about 2 at that point. So she had been dead 10 years. And so my mother thought, well, this is a bit strange, you know, my daughter's talking to her dead great-grandmother. But I was very lucky in the respect that my mother never stopped me. You know, she didn't say, I don't want to hear about the ghosts. But what I did get the very strong sense of is my family were not really comfortable with my abilities. So very early on, I decided that it was better to just hide it. And any experiences that I did have, I didn't talk about. Mm. And that went all through life up until my 20s, when I experienced the first rape with the Reptilian. I decided to then try to talk to my mother about it and try to basically fill her in on what had been happening all my life that she didn't know about. She didn't take it very well, I have to say. I suppose I was expecting her to be a little bit sympathetic, you know, having your daughter turn around and say, I've just been raped and I'm not coping very well with it and I don't know what to do and I think I'm pregnant. I expected her to be a little more loving and caring about it. And the response I got was, is there any more coffee in the pot? And that was it, just nothing. But that my family are, well, if you've heard my other interviews, I refer to them as being sociopathic. There's very strong elements of sociopathic behaviour. But I understand now, because I've done a lot of work with my teams, I understand now I needed to have that foundation of being in a family that were not accepting of what I was or my abilities. I needed to have that hard upbringing of, you know, no emotion, that they never showed emotion apart from anger. You know, you didn't have cuddles and sit on mummy's lap. That just didn't happen. But I had to have that grounding to make me strong. And I think that's another reason why I was made with so much reptilian genetics, because reptilians are, I mean, they're fiercely loyal. If you have them as a partner or a parent or a friend, that they will defend you with their life. That's how loyal they are. But they're also extremely strong. You know, that you can do a lot to them mentally, physically, emotionally, and they'll survive and they'll just keep getting up and keep going. So that's obviously why I needed such a high amount of the reptilian genetics, because I needed to get through everything else that followed. And my 20s were crazy. Literally things were happening every day. You know, I'd be followed in the car, my phone was tapped, Chinook helicopters over my place most nights, coming so low that things would shake and fall off the shelf. It was relentless. So I needed that grounding from childhood of not really being accepted in my own family unit and not having that love to be able to get through all the bad stuff with the negative ETs and the military and secret society. So there's always a reason for everything that happens. And I'm very much a believer in that at the time you can really question, you know, why me? Why is this happening? And, you know, you can have moments of doubt or fear or thinking I'm going crazy. But there's always a reason why that's happening on your journey, which you might not understand at the time. But maybe a few years down the line, you'll look back and you'll think, okay, it all fits together now.
Well, have you okay, you did talk about the rape. Was that the first time you ever saw a reptilian, or were there other episodes or events before that you did see the racing question?
Yeah, so when I was tiny, I even remember when I was in my cot, a little reptilian boy would come and visit, and he grew up with me until I was about 10. He was with me every single day, and I'd see him. You know, I might be out in the playground, and I'd see him to either my left or right. No one else could see him, but I could. And because I've always been able to communicate telepathically ETs, I'd speak to him, and we'd laugh and joke about things, or we'd look around the playground and sort of comment on other people, and it was sort of a little bit of a laugh between us that no one else could see him,
Mm-hmm.
and I might be sitting there smiling to myself, and probably my friends were looking at me thinking, what's she smiling about? So for me, that was very comforting to know that he was there. And even if he wasn't, in my mind, I could call him, mm-hmm. and he'd either appear or he would respond. So I knew that I was never alone. And I think that was another important element. And I think for a lot of hybrids, obviously, as over the years that I've gone public, when the book first came out in 2015, I've had more and more people contact me, and they have experienced the same things, that they have not felt comfortable in their family group. It's been very difficult for them to have relationships and friendships. So I count myself very lucky that I've always had that very strong link to my teams, because if I hadn't have had that, I honestly don't know if I would be here. I think I probably would have gone mad mm-hmm. by this point, but I had that. So I always saw him as a child, and he stayed with me, as I say, until about 10 years old. And then I had a break of time where I had energetic information downloads from the reptilians, but I didn't see them physically, not until I would say early 20s. And then that's when the reptilians started coming a lot more, although I will say more of the negative side. But I'd see other ETs, so greys I saw a lot. Other beings that I don't necessarily have a name for. Lots of the black beings I would see at night time.
Shadow people, perhaps? Or?
Yes, yeah, like shadow people. Okay. Yeah. Well, and it was really strange when I used to get followed, when I'd go out in my car and I'd be followed, or I'd be walking around, and you'd see some people that didn't fit. Do you know what I mean? You'd look at them and think, you don't fit here. You don't look quite right.
No. Right, yeah.
And I can always tell, because I work a lot with energy, so you can pick up on people's auras, mm-hmm. As you're walking through a park or a supermarket or something, and their energy just was off. It was really off. So I could always tell when I was being observed by someone who wasn't quite human. So I'd have a lot of that, but that was really when the military side kicked in, that I started having that and being followed and the phone tapped.
But how did
it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah. But how did they find you? How did they know about you? Yeah.
So from what I've discovered from my team over the years, because I mean it's taken. I've just turned 33. It was my birthday on Wednesday, and it's taken really from my early 20s to late 20s, age of 30, to really uncover most of what's been going on. And from what my team has said is that I was always on the list of people of interest, shall we say. So they were aware of me, being born and coming to the planet. So I was earmarked from birth, basically.
Okay.
Of being part of the breeding program was one of the agendas. But you see, not knowing that at the time, you're having these experiences and you don't know why, and you're trying to piece it all together and thinking, blimey, this is a bit much. So over the years, it's been quite an interesting journey, and obviously difficult at times, particularly with the hybrid children, because when as an adult, yes, you think about things, you think about settling down and having children at some point, don't you?
Yeah.
But when that choice is taken away and someone else decides, right, okay, we're going to put you into a breeding program and breed from you, that's very difficult to accept, especially, well, obviously rape is very difficult for a male or female to come to terms with. Mm-hmm. But when you know that children are being created that you don't have access to, that's another layer to deal with, because you're having to accept that you are a parent, you have children out there, but you can't do any of the normal things like, playtime and bath time and stories and put them to bed,
Mm-hmm.
you've been robbed of that. So not only have you been forced into doing something that you didn't want to do, but you've then been robbed of any time with your children. And of course, it's that turmoil of thinking, what are the children going through? How are they going to be used? You know, knowing how I was used. And I've met lots of other men and women who have been in the same situation where they have been bred from, and some of them have met their hybrid children and some of them haven't. And it's that emotional turmoil of knowing that your children are there somewhere, but you just can't get to them. And in your mind, you know, every single day you think, oh, I wonder what they're doing today. I wonder how they are. You know, these little things that as a normal parent, you wouldn't have to question, because you'd have your children there all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
could watch them grow
Mm-hmm.
and get to know their characteristics and the little things that make them laugh. But when that's taken away, it's a huge hole in your life that you can't fill. I mean, sometimes for people, when they do actually settle down and decide to have children, that some way fills the hole. You know, I haven't done that yet. I'm not married and settled down yet. Mm. But probably when I do, that will help. But you still always have it in your mind of, where are the children? How are they being treated? It's a constant worry every day.
It's maddening. But how are you aware of the pregnancy?
Okay, so I remember most of the rapes. Again, because I work a lot with energy, you can actually feel the energy of the child.
Okay.
So this is how I was so aware that when they had taken the children, so some of the occasions I do remember them taking the children and some I don't. I just know that there was an abduction, and the next morning when I woke up, I couldn't feel the energy of the baby anymore. So I knew that the baby had been taken. Mm-hmm. And also, you know, as you've probably heard with lots of people who are abducted, it's the way you feel physically afterwards when you've been abducted. You know, you can get marks on your body, you know, bruises or little puncture wounds where they've injected you with something, and you just feel ill. Nothing about your body feels right because of what they've done. Mm-hmm. So I always knew that was another telltale sign for me, that if I woke up one morning and I was feeling that, it's hard to describe. There's a heaviness to your body that is not normal. Mm. It's not your normal heaviness. And there's sort of I used to get like a brain fog, which was from all the chemicals that they used to give me to, you know, keep me asleep. Mm-hmm. So if I woke up in the morning and I felt like that, I knew something had happened. And then I would then try to remember, or I'd speak with my teams and I'd say, okay, I want to remember what happened, because I know I've been abducted and I want to piece it together. Now, sometimes my team would help me remember things, and at certain points they've said, we really don't think it would be helpful for you to remember everything, because they knew that I was going through things every single day, and they were quite concerned that I would get to a point where it was too much and I would either, you know, completely break down, you know, have a breakdown or something. They didn't want me to get pushed so much over the edge that I couldn't function. Mm-hmm. And with all the chemicals that the military have given to me over the time, certainly physically, health-wise, I was suffering a lot, particularly in my 20s, because it was so relentless. So they were very much aware that although my mind was there and I really wanted to get to grips with what was happening, they knew that physically I wasn't coping, so that they wanted to be really careful that I wasn't pushed too much over the edge. But I'm just one of these people that I want to know it all. I would rather know it so I can deal with it in my own mind than not. See, reptilians are very stubborn. Yeah. We're very stubborn creatures. So if there's something going on and we don't know about it, but we feel it's important to know, then that's it. We want to know everything.
So do you actually remember physically being injected with chemicals to dumb you down?
Yes, I do. So on one of the experiences that I was abducted, and It was one of the times I was taken to the underground military base. And I remember when they come to get me from my from where I was living at that point, they've got machines that they can almost zap you, and you're completely motionless. You can't talk, you can't move. So they put me into what looked like a black body bag, but they left it open enough so I could breathe. And they put me onto a black helicopter. So two of the guys come on the helicopter with me, and two of the guys got into a black vehicle and drove off wherever. And I would estimate that we must have been flying for about 45 minutes. So we touched down and they took me off of the helicopter. So I'm still in the body bag by this point. And all I can see is that it was like a big hill and huge double doors that had opened. And I could see, like one of those wire fences, high wire fences. They might have been 20 foot high. So we went into these double doors, and then I could feel that we were walking down, lots of, big bright lights overhead, walking down sort of into the hill, lots of doors off to the left and right. So we went through one of the left doors, and they put me on a bed, and it was a very sparsely furnished room. There was a bed and a chair and a mirror, and that was about it. So they put me on the bed, they took me out of the body bag, and one of the military guys stayed, the other one went out, and he didn't look quite right. He had very big eyes, sort of slightly slanted. His skin was far too pale. It just, nothing about him looked right. I thought, okay. And he just sat there staring at me, and I'm thinking, everything goes through your mind at that point. You're thinking, why am I here? What do you want this time? And a guy came in with a white sort of lab coat and this box machine. And from one end, there was a wire with a syringe, which he put into my left arm. And I noticed on the other side of the box, the wire was going out of the room. And I thought, well, this is a weird one. I haven't had this before that I'm aware of. And whatever he was pumping into my arm was ice cold. That's how it felt. So I could feel it going through my bloodstream. And then he flicked a switch on the box, and I heard this sort of whirring, that electrical whirring sound. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I thought, I don't think I'm going to like this. Just everything about the situation. I thought I'm scared. In one sense, I was so used to this happening that it just becomes a bit of a normality, which sounds a bit crazy. But I was quite concerned at that point, because I thought, this is not what I'm used to. This is a bit different. And when he flicked the switch, I felt like an electrical current come through the wire, through the syringe that was still in my arm, and into my body. So it was the oddest sensation to have this electrical current. You literally could feel it just going in waves through your body. And every time the wave went through, this liquid that they'd pumped in heated up. And every time it was a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So in the end, I felt like I was boiling from the inside out. It was the oddest sensation, but I couldn't move. I was still rigid, and I couldn't shout or scream or anything. So what I started to realize is that I could feel my body shifting, and I couldn't move my head. So I couldn't see the whole of my body, but I could see sort of from my waist down, and I could see that I was starting to change into my reptilian form. And I panicked at that point. I thought, oh no, I mustn't do that, because if they realize that they've got the ability to change me into reptilian, God knows what they're going to do. I think I'm in enough agendas and programs of theirs. I don't really want to be in another one. So I really tried to fight changing shape, but didn't succeed. And the pain, I can't describe. I don't think I've ever been in so much pain in my life. So I changed into my reptilian form. The guy in the lab coat took the syringe out and took the box out. And what I found is I had a little bit of movement in my upper body. And I thought, oh, great, quick, you know, let's try to move. So it seemed like ages, but I managed to move my entire body. So obviously in my reptilian form, I was more able to fight off whatever drug they'd given me in my home to, you know, completely sedate me. I was able to fight it off in my reptilian form, which I found interesting. So I managed to sit up on the side of the bed. And at that point they thought, oh, hang on, I think we better leave the room because she looks a bit pissed off now. I thought, yes, I am. So sat on the bed, managed to stand up, and you could say conveniently, they'd left a full-length mirror in the room. It wasn't a two-way mirror. I know that because I can see through two-way mirrors. Always have been able to. So it definitely wasn't a two-way mirror. But I think they'd left it there because obviously they were trying to change me to my reptilian form, and they thought, okay, well then she can have a look at herself in the mirror, which was a very weird experience.
Yeah.
You know, to see yourself 7 foot with green scales and a tail is it's a bit different, I can tell you. So I was a little bit fascinated with that. I noticed at that point when I was standing in front of the mirror that there was some stairs going down, and at the bottom of the stairs was a door that very conveniently had been left open. And I thought, okay, this is obviously some sort of test. So walked down the stairs, went through the door. The door closed behind me and locked, which I knew it was going to because I knew that this was all part of a test. So I was then in a white room. At the far end of the room was a two-way mirror. So I could see that there was 4 men sitting in a little room beyond that. And they all had, you know, military uniforms on. And I noticed that there were speakers everywhere in the room, you know, not just on the walls, but the ceiling, the floor, everywhere. And I thought, this has got to be something to do with sound. This test is something to do with sound waves. And what they were doing is that they were trying out different sound waves on me. I mean, they've had this technology at least since the 1950s to use sound waves as a weapon, you know, to make you feel happy or ill or cause you physical pain just by sending the sound waves. So I was aware of that by that point. So I thought this is obviously going to be a test of how much pain I can take or whatever. And as they started the sound waves, I just observed how I felt. Now, some of them had absolutely no effect on me. Some of them physically caused discomfort to my body, but not anything that I couldn't, you know, I wasn't immobilized by it. And some of them I found that it was trying to get into your head, trying to make you feel very emotional or very depressed. But I every step of the way was just trying to fight it off, because I thought I was very annoyed by that point, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Being taken there and subjected to this. So, and the 4 military men in the room beyond was observing this all the time. They wanted to see what my reaction was to these sound waves. And basically it was an experiment of how do reptilians perform? How do they cope with these sound waves? What affects them, what doesn't? Because the military can then use it themselves. But also with the reptilians that they work with, is what could be useful in controlling those reptilians. Mm-hmm. And I started to get this idea in my mind that this is probably another program that they want to put me into.
Okay. If
they think that they can control me and change me into my reptilian form, they could use me as, you know, some sort of soldier, which obviously I was absolutely not up for. So I then thought, okay, I'll have my own game. And because I work a lot with energy, and I always have, I put my palms out and I sent my energy out of my palms into the room, through the speakers and down the wires into the room beyond. And I started to mess up their system. And I saw that a chap went into the room beyond with 4 military chaps in. and they were having a conversation. He was saying that the machine's not working. The machine's not working. We don't know what's happened. And of course, I'm laughing to myself, thinking, ha ha ha. You know, you think this was going to be so easy? Guess again. So then the military guys then turned and looked at me, and they said to the guy in the lab coat, "Do you think it's anything to do with her?" And the guy in the lab coat said, well, I don't see how it can be. So with that, I pushed more energy and completely messed up their machine.
Yeah.
And I started walking towards the two-way mirror. And then I pushed my energy into the two-way mirror, and it cracked. And they suddenly thought, she's doing this. And they didn't bank on that. So I pushed my energy a little bit further, and I actually scanned the four men, which I do this in my healing work. I scan people's body and auras to see what's wrong medically or whatever. So I just scanned them, and I could see that one of the guys had a heart issue, the other guy had a lung issue. And I thought, okay, I'll just have a little bit of a game here. And I wrapped some energy around his heart, and I just squeezed a little bit, not enough to kill him, but just to make my point of, hello, yes, I'm here. And the same with the guy with the lung issues. I just squeezed a little bit so he couldn't breathe quite as well. And they all suddenly had that realization that, this has backfired quite badly on us. And at that point, they unlocked the door. And I took that point, you know, to leave, go back up to the room, out into the corridor. Now, my intention was to run out of that base as quickly as possible and get as far away as I could. But it suddenly occurred to me that this is a golden opportunity to see what else I could find out, because I was not used to being on a military base and be able to walk and move. Mm-hmm. I was used to being there and you know, being sedated. And I thought, well, if I could just look in another room and find something of interest, you know, that would be good to do at this point. So instead of going right to the main door where I could have escaped, I turned left and went down the corridor until I felt that there was a room that was appropriate for me to go into. And it was two double, very thick metal doors painted red. So I went through, and there was sort of this plastic curtaining inside the room, going all the way around the room. And inside that was a lab. So I just sort of, you know, went in quietly because there were people working in there. And I just tried to observe as much as I could. And I was thinking, oh, well, if they see me, they see me. There's not much I can do, but I'll see if I can find anything out while I'm here. Obviously, someone did spot me being a 7-foot reptilian. So I was spotted eventually. So, of course, they all screamed and run out. And there was two people who were trying to hide what they were working on. So I thought, oh, well, obviously that's of interest. I better go over there. They ended up running out. And what I discovered, reading through the notes and looking in all the kind of bits that they were testing, there were flesh samples. And the flesh samples were human and ET. And from the notes that they had there, what they were trying to do was combine ET genetics and human, but on a robot. So the core of the being that you would see would be a robot, and then the covering, you know, all the muscles and the flesh and everything, would be ET, and then the skin over it would be human. So to look at it, you would think it's a normal human, but actually would be AI and would have abilities that are akin to the ETs, you know, to psychic abilities and lots of strength. And then there was another file that I looked at that they were trying to create a child army. Oh, no. So they were going to do this as an adult form to see how it worked. And if it worked well, if they perfected it, they would then have a child army. Now, can you imagine, you know, because with all of us, if we see some children playing, we don't think anything of it, do we? You just think, oh, you know, children are playing, and you carry on your conversation. And their idea was to send these children anywhere in the world into any situation, and because they wouldn't be questioned because they're children, they could get into the minds of people. So whether that's other governments or other military or certain people of interest to them, the children could actually get into that person's mind, make them do things that that person didn't necessarily want to do. Mm-hmm. And I thought, holy cow, you know, crazy. That's a whole other, you know, because we know about the super soldiers and everything else, but that's a whole other level of deviousness. So at that point, a group of military personnel came in and tranquilized me with something. And so I staggered back through the hallway with them. And eventually, whatever they gave me overtook me, and I just kind of blacked out. And then when I did wake up, which was the next day, back in my bed, feeling very bruised and ill and not knowing what was going on. Mm-hmm. But luckily, I retained the memory of all of that, mm-hmm. which I'm hugely thankful for. And again, to have found that information out from the lab, I think they honestly thought that whatever they gave me would make me forget. Because you see, that's what they normally do. That they'll have one serum to tranquilize you so you can't move and talk, and then they'll have another serum to wipe your memory. And they have certain machines that can wipe your memory as well. Mm. So I honestly think that they thought that I'd just forget the whole thing. But thankfully, I remembered it all. Oh. But yeah, it was a very bizarre experience for a lot of reasons. Not just changing into my reptilian form, but everything else. And having a little bit more of a realization of my power. I mean, not that I'm a very loving person. I don't want to hurt anyone, but to protect myself in that situation, I felt that I had to do that. I had to get my point across, that I'm really not happy that you've done this. And I'm absolutely not going to be part of your program of being some sort of super soldier. Because it was enough what they had done to me, and it was enough that they'd taken my children. I didn't then want to be put into another program where, I can be changed into a reptilian form and controlled by them. That just absolutely was not going to happen.
Have you seen your children?
I have. So I've been to the underground military base a couple of times. It was a bit weird. I didn't know I was going. So when I was abducted and I woke up, and there was this woman there, and she sort of pulled me up, and I knew I was an underground military base, but I didn't know why. And I thought, well, I know I'm not pregnant right now, so it's not that. It's obviously something else. And she pulled me up and pulled me into this hallway, and we're walking down a very dark, dank hallway to this door, and she waved her little card, and the door opened. And she sort of shoved me in, and there was these 3 children, and I was so shocked, because obviously I knew they were mine. I was so shocked to see them. I just stood there, and I couldn't move. I thought, oh my god, and so I walked in, and the 2 girls, the 2 girls were not bothered. That they recognised me as their mother, but they didn't rush over to have a hug. They're not very emotional. Very, very pale, big slanted eyes. I mean, I think that they're beautiful because they're my children. So however they look, I'll say that they're beautiful. Mm-hmm. But they were not interested in communicating with me. When I tried to hug them, they were, they just stood there. But the little boy looked completely human, and big sparkly eyes and lovely dark hair like mine. And he was so excited. He was saying, oh, mummy, you're here. And it just would break your heart, really. And he had his little toys, and he was so excited to show me his toys. And he had lots of wooden ones, like a little wooden train and a little wooden trolley that he'd push along with, the little wooden bricks, the old fashioned ones that you get that are painted on the side. So he had a set of those. And he was just so proud to show me how he put all his wooden toys in his little wooden cart and would push it along.
Oh.
And I mean, it was just amazing. You know, I sat there totally in awe of this being, and being so happy, considering he just lived in a room with his two sisters. I mean, okay, they don't know any different. Mm-hmm. But he was making the most of his situation. So we sat there talking, and I sat him on my lap and was giving him hugs and cuddles, and the girls were just observing it, but they didn't want to come over and participate, and I had to just accept that. But no, he was the sweetest thing. Just chubby little beauty, just so beautiful. So I must have been there, I suppose, at about an hour. I mean, it felt like 5 minutes, and then the woman said, "Oh, we have to go now." And of course I said, "Well, can I not stay, you know, a bit longer?" She said, "No, that's, you know, time's up." So it was, as you can imagine, it was absolutely heartbreaking to walk out of that room and to think, I don't know, you know, what do you say? What do you say to a child that you've not spent any time with, and you just show up and they don't know you're coming, and I didn't know I was going, and then you have to leave them. You know, what, as a mother, what do you say? And I didn't know what to say. I just said, I love you all, and I think about you all every day, and I hope that I can see you. I'll do whatever I can to see you again. And of course, you know, he was crying and he didn't want to let go of me, and it was just so heartbreaking as a mother, because you want to comfort your little boy, but you can't, because you have to go. And I didn't want to lie to him and say, oh, darling, I'll see you tomorrow, because I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to.
Well, have you ever seen them again?
That was the last time. So that was the most time I was allowed to spend, was an hour. So, I mean, I always think about them, and I always sort of send messages, and I hope they get through. Although obviously, you know, underground military bases, it's very sort of cut off, you know, so sending kind of signals or messages in tends to get blocked, and the same for anyone inside trying to send telepathic messages out, it gets blocked. So, I mean, all I can do is just hope that they're okay, and that they know I'm thinking about them.
Have you ever?
You know, that's go on.
Yeah, regarding the you know, the possible location of the base. Since you said it's roughly 45 minutes away from, you create a radius of a possible distance that can be flown through with whatever means that they brought you over. But did you ever find out roughly where the location might have been?
No, I mean, a few people have suggested maybe Wiltshire, which would be to the west. A couple of people have said that, you know, there are underground military bases there that maybe they might be on, but not for certain. And the thing is as much as I'd love to just turn up on the doorstep, you know, knock on the door and say, "Oh, hi, you know, could I pop and see my kids?" Yeah. You know, obviously, realistically, they're not going to let me in. Yeah, it is a difficult one, but this is what's made me so passionate about helping other people, because there's a lot of men and women who are going through this, and they don't have a voice, because who can they talk to in their normal life about this? You know, sometimes they can't even talk to their partners. So it becomes a very lonely place of people not understanding you, because it's different if, you know, if you're a parent and something's happened and social services have taken your children away, and you can verbalize that to your friends and family. But in this situation, particularly with military and secret societies, if you've had something happen and you know your children are there, who can you speak to? You know, you can't go to the doctor and say, "Oh, I'm not coping," because, I mean, you're going to be medicated within seconds, you know, which is just going to make everything worse. Sure. And also for women who have miscarriages, and they're not miscarriages at all. It's made to appear that they've had a miscarriage. You know, and I had that when I was about 18 or 19. I had what appeared to be a miscarriage, but it wasn't. And I never told anyone about that.
Basically
not even,
a phantom pregnancy.
Yes, yeah. Not even my mother. I didn't tell anyone. So this is the thing for women who are going through this, and they've got nothing to, nowhere to go. So I've tried to be a person that they can come to because I can understand it. I've been through it, but also to talk about this, because there's a lot of people, understandably, that they emotionally they can't talk about this because it's just too much, and they're too afraid of what people would think, being ridiculed, or maybe losing their jobs, or their partners leaving them. So I feel it very important to be a voice for them. And as traumatic as everything has been, I feel a sense of duty that I have to tell people what's happened, my story, and what does happen to people, because the more people are aware, the more it helps us,
yeah.
And it makes people aware of, what's going on. Not to say that it isn't difficult to discuss these things. Obviously it is, but I feel that it's very important, and that was the thing with the book. I didn't plan to go public. I would chat to people if they contacted me, but I didn't really plan to go public with it. And it was only Mary Rodwell, who's a friend of mine, has been for years, and I had some regressions with her, and we would chat about things, and she said, what you've gone through, it's quite a lot. And it might sound strange, but for me, when I was going through it, I didn't think about it in that way. It's just, let's prepare for the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And you just get up again, and you take the next knock, and you get up and you deal with it. But Mary was trying to make the point that you're going through this, but you're coping considering you're coping well, and the fact that you can talk to people about it. It would be really great if you could make yourself a little bit more accessible to people. And I listened to what she said, but I didn't really think about taking it any further. And it was only that Miguel contacted her and said, I need some people for the book. Do you know anyone? And he seems to particularly want a reptilian. So Mary said, I know just the lady.
Huzzah. Yeah.
So that's how the book happened. So it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't planned, although I think the team had it planned for me, but just didn't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it led to the book. And then that following February, the International UFO Congress in Phoenix, Arizona, asked us hybrids if we would go and talk a little bit about our experiences. And they didn't quite know how it would go because they'd never had a hybrid or any hybrids talk, so they wasn't quite sure how it would be received. So we were all thinking, this could be interesting. It'll either go really well or it'll be a disaster. But it was a wonderful 5 days. And, as I said to people, I am here. The whole point I'm on this planet is to serve humanity and hybrids, and to bridge the divide between humanity, hybrids, and aliens. So if this can be another avenue of a way I can help, is to be at the conferences, to offer people a chance to meet me, talk to me, ask me questions, and I will answer as best I can. It's another way to help people. I had a few guys that were a bit aggressive after I'd done my talk, which I was not necessarily expecting, but apparently it was just because I was a reptilian, and they understood from the internet that all reptilians are bad. We're evil. We sacrifice children. We dance around naked in the moonlight, and we just want to take over the planet. And I, me being me, because I've got a bit of a funny sense of humour, and I said, well, I don't know about you, dear, but normally at night time I'm tucked up warm in my bed. I don't really want to be dancing around naked in the garden, personally speaking, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I spoke to the 3 guys, and you know, they calmed down after about 10 minutes. And I said, well, look, I have absolutely no interest in taking over this planet. Believe me, I've got enough to deal with in my everyday life.
Yeah.
No interest in that. But you know, I'm here if you want to talk. If you say you haven't met a reptilian, well, you have now. So what's your impression? Do I offend you? You know, have a conversation so that you can make your own judgment from an experience you've had. Because otherwise you're going online, reading what someone else has written, who may well not have had an experience with a reptilian either, you know. So that, they were fine. But it's just for my first conference to have 3 separate occasions of the guys coming up and, we don't think you should be here. And I was like,
that's all.
Okay.
So do you still have the the black helicopters over you?
It's quietened down. The last few years it's been a lot more quiet. I get the occasional thing, but they know now that they've gone a bit too far with me, and I'm not going to play ball.
Okay.
They still would like me to join them, and this goes for the secret society as well. They would love me to embrace their evil ways, and join so that they can just use me in whatever way that they want. But they know I'm not interested. And the thing is, with reptilians, as I say, we are extremely stubborn.
Yeah.
So once we make up our mind about something, that's it. Or if there's something we're passionate about, a project, we're like a dog with a bone. We just won't let go, you know. And I'm so devoted to helping this planet and the inhabitants of it. And I will never stop. And they know that, you know, I've made it very clear. I will die carrying out my mission.
Good.
If that's what's required. So with that level of stubbornness or pure intent, whatever you want to call it, there's absolutely no way that they're going to win. So I think they've given up. They check in with me occasionally. And they play around, because I've got a tracking device at the top of my nose here.
Really?
I've had it for years and years and years. So we have a little bit of a game, because I'll get rid of it for a few weeks, and then they'll come and put it back. And then I'll get rid of it.
So you actually feel it?
Yeah. So you know, you've got this this hard bit, that little bit of bone.
Mm-hmm.
So just up inside the bone on the left is a little round device.
Okay.
That tracks me, and I've had it. It's been there since I was about 19, 20, and I'm 33 now. So yes, because they've always wanted to monitor where I am. Mm-hmm. But I always know when they've put it back, because you can feel it. It's got its own energy.
Okay.
So you can feel that it's there. And I remember one time when I just using energy, basically, I dissolved it. And then a few days later, I was sitting in a cafe in Sussex, and I could literally feel it reforming. So they were flying overhead using whatever laser thing that they had on board, and they literally were reforming the implant. It was the weirdest sensation, just to feel. Because each layer they put on, you could feel a little bit of pressure.
Oh no!
And I'm sitting there drinking my cup of tea and looking at everyone, thinking, if only you knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So we tend to have a little bit of a go. So they'll check on me from time to time.
Okay.
But they've stopped pushing now, because they know that they're not going to succeed.
So
which is really nice. It's really nice, because you know, physically. The trauma that you go through was a lot, and health wise I've suffered a lot over the years. So it's nice from that respect to have freedom and peace. So I the worst is over. I'll always have experience with the ETs.
Okay.
And that's really nice, you know, because it's lovely when you have a positive ET group come and whisk you off on a craft and take you places.
So you've been physically on a craft?
Yes. Oh, lots of times. Yes.
Okay, let's get into that.
And it's lovely. It's
okay.
For me, it's I know for some people they get a little bit frightened because it's out of their comfort zone. They're not in control of the situation.
No.
But for me, I can feel if it's a positive intention why they're coming, and then you can just surrender yourself to the experience. But I've had wonderful experiences. One occasion, the very, very tall greys, and the whole of their body is sort of it's like a crystalline. You almost can see through them, and it's sort of rainbow color. It's hard to explain. It's sort of rainbow colors to their skin, a little bit like starlight. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I went on board their craft, and this was back when I was having a lot of health issues, and I said you've got to do something because my body is failing, and if something doesn't happen, although my mind is still there, the body's going to fail, and I'm not going to be able to complete my mission. So you've got to do something. So they come and got me, and in the middle of their control room, where they fly the ship, they had this crystal bed. It was made of quartz crystal, and it was slightly hollowed so that when you lay down, that it felt comfortable. And they said, okay, lay down on the bed and we're going to heal you. And they said, well, this is also a lesson for you on how we heal ourselves, but how we heal other ETs and humans. So remember this because it will be useful in the future. Now, at that point, the Galactic Federation hadn't told me about starting the organization and the health center. So it was only when they did that I connected these two things. So I laid down on the bed, and they were round the crystal bed in a circle, all of them facing me. And they used light and sound frequencies through the crystal, which obviously I then absorbed because I was laying on it. And I looked at all of them, and there was just this, I could see the energy coming from their bodies of love and good intention. And they said that's another layer of the healing. It's not just about the physical, the fact that you're laying on the crystal bed. It's not just about the colors that we're putting through, because they explained that different colors healed different things, different organs. And the same with the sound frequencies. And I do remember this from ancient Egypt when I had a life there. I was a hybrid there as well. And Sekhmet, you might be familiar with the goddess Sekhmet. She was actually a hybrid. Okay. And in that life, she was my mother. And Cynthia Crawford in the book and I were sisters. So in Egypt, we were there to be ambassadors, basically for the ETs, to communicate with the humans and teach them our technology for the good of the human race. Okay. So that was all part of it. The sound healing chambers and the light healing chambers were all part of that technology. So it made me remember a previous life, which was lovely. But the Greys were saying it's also your intention to the person who's laying on the bed. You have to really send love and that intention of wanting to heal them. And of course, as a healer, it helps if you can actually see into that body to see where the blockages are, or where the trauma is, or where the problem is, and clear it. It's all those layers are important to heal the person. It's not just about, I'll just put them on a crystal bed for 10 minutes and they'll be fine. Yeah. So that was really helpful for me to have more of an understanding. And, again, with studying the nutrition, I was fortunate to study with a lady who was a lot more enlightened than most nutritionalists. Yeah. And a lot of the nutrition courses, it's very one-sided. It's all just about the physical. Yeah. And with this lady, she was very much aware of galactic energies, how our energy in our body changes through the seasons. And so so yes, it made perfect sense to me that you can't just look at something singularly, because there's lots of layers to it. You have to heal someone on all levels. Otherwise you don't get to the root cause.
Okay.
So yes, that was a wonderful experience, and I did feel much better after that. And I do at night time, although I go to sleep, I do also go other places, and sometimes that's for healing.
Okay.
Because I need a bit of a top up, or I've got other missions to do kind of off planet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and another experience I had again with the Greys. This was during my 20s as well, and I was really questioning, and I thought to myself, how could I have chosen such a difficult path? I must have been mad.
Yeah.
It must have been crazy.
I know.
Because I do absolutely believe that before we come to this planet or any other planet or live on board craft or wherever it is, we have a meeting with our team, and we discuss, okay, as a soul, how much have you evolved? What have you learned over all your lifetimes in whatever form, ET form, animal form, human? And what do you have left to learn? And then with your team, you work out what's the best scenario for the next lifetime for you to achieve those goals that your soul needs to evolve and ascend. So you pick, you are absolutely integral to picking your life, the form you're in, where you live, your parents and everything. And quite often your parents in this life had something to do with your life in the past. It could have been your partner or your daughter or whatever, that there would be some connection. So that's one thing that for a lot of people they struggle with, to think, I actually chose this, because they think, oh, but my life is so awful, why would I have chosen this? But once you understand that it's for your own good, we never stop learning, and you have to keep learning for your soul to evolve to the next level. Mm-hmm. And if you don't go through these hard experiences, you can't understand, and therefore you would never have empathy or sympathy for others, because you wouldn't have been through it. So yes, okay, these things can be very difficult to go through, but there's always a purpose as to why you chose them. In the next life, you may have a very easy life and have lots of money and, just to have that experience. But in this life, you go through a lot. Mm-hmm. So I was really questioning in my 20s as to why had I picked such a journey? And I said to my team, you've got to give me something, because I'm, as much as you're telling me, oh, you picked it and it's all part of the picture, you've not given me enough of the picture to really take this on board and accept it. I need more. I need more, because I'm struggling. So that night they abducted me again, the Greys, went on board craft, and all of them, and there must have been 30 of them, all crowded round me at all different heights, adults and little children, Greys. They all put their hands on my body. Oh. And I had this awesome feeling of being heavy and light, and here but not here, and being everywhere. It was a very odd sensation. You were everything, and everything was you. You felt a very strong connection to everything that was around you, and the universe, and just everything. Mm-hmm. And they showed me that meeting that I'd had to agree to all of this, and why I'd agreed to it. So they showed me the future projection of my life and where it was all leading, so that I could then see there was a purpose to this, because I couldn't see a purpose to any of it. That's kind of where my mind was at that moment. So once I could see it, I thought, oh, okay, it makes sense. I can accept that now. Again, it goes back to us reptilians, you know, we're just, we love to know the ins and outs, you know,
Yeah.
we've got to know. I'm also a Capricorn as well. So I'm very much, you know, I've got to know. It's got to be, you know, to the letter. And they're probably thinking, oh, Christ, you know, just get on with it, girl. So then I was at ease because I had that understanding. And the experience, I mean, it felt like hours, but it was probably just minutes. And it was just that feeling of, I had a connection with everything that had ever happened in the universe and everything that was happening right in that moment and everything that was going to happen. And it was almost so expansive, your brain couldn't comprehend it. But, you know, you tried not to think about it too much. It was the feel of it, that everything was happening just as it was meant to.
Okay.
And so I kind of come back into the craft after this awesome experience, feeling all light and floaty and thinking, oh my God. I've never done drugs in my life, but I'm imagining that it's something like that, this kind of euphoric, you know, floating on air, and you sort of feel that you are there and not there at the same time. And they were very gentle with me, and they said, okay, does that answer your question? Can you stop pestering us with this now? Yeah. Can we just get on with it? I said, okay, yes, I'm back on track now. Okay. But what they said is that we're going to have to wipe some of what you've seen for your future, because the problem is that if you're too aware of everything, there's a risk that you could change it, which is fair enough. And I said, well, I can accept that because you've shown it to me, which I'm hugely appreciative of. So I can accept that you need to wipe some of it. But what did stick was about the Galactic Federation, them wanting the healing center. Okay. And that I needed, you know, in this day and age, you have to take courses and you have to get that certificate and you have to get your insurance legally, you know, because we're kind of on this planet where you have to do those things. Yeah. So they were very clear on, you know, you need to do these courses. This is how you need to set it up. And this is the logo we want. And this is the color scheme we want. And so they kept that in my mind of that being very clear. And also the different technologies that they wanted, you know, so the crystal bed, for example, they want those, and other things that are on this planet that are linked to the technology that they've brought to this planet over time. You know, if you look at the Chinese medicine and the meridian system, a lot of that is what they brought to this planet. And then if you look at the ancient technologies in Egypt, so they made me very aware of that, to study those things, to take those on board, to collect books. So I had the information there when the center's ready to be up and running. Okay. So again, that was wonderful to be shown that kind of pattern of when they've come to the earth to bestow knowledge and information. It's just that as time's gone on, some of that's been lost, or it's been misinterpreted as one thing when it wasn't. So I mean, that was a profound experience for me to be given that chance to have that understanding. Okay. So hugely grateful for that.
So is the center up and running?
Partly. It is, in the sense that, I mean, I do my own consultations. Okay. And if there's anything that I can't do, then I have other practitioners that I trust, that I can send people to. Okay. The ultimate goal is a building. Yeah. They really, really want a building where, you know, we can have conferences, we can have workshops, we can have in-house therapies and therapists, so that people are just coming to that one building. Okay. And also for people who, whether physically or emotionally, they're really in turmoil, you know, they're having a breakdown, or maybe they're suffering with cancer, or whatever it is, that they can actually come to the centre as a retreat and stay for as long as they need to stay until we've healed them and got them back to health. So that's the ultimate goal. Okay. Obviously these things take money.
Oh yeah, lots of money.
So I mean that's going to be the biggest hurdle, is getting the money together and getting a building. Okay. But I think it was important for me, on a personal level, to just get my health better, to be doing the studying that I needed to do. With the conferences, normally I'm here, there and everywhere. So that was an experience that I needed to do, to sort of get out there and connect with people. And then then COVID hit.
Yeah. That screwed around everything.
So this is really interesting, because although, I'm not doing any conferences, it's great because I can do the radio interviews. Mm-hmm. So I've got ample time to fit those in. I'm also, doing more studying. So that's been good. That's been key to sort of come in with that. And also update the website and get an online shop. So that's something else that I had on the to-do list, which now I have time to do. Okay. So it's, again, with us reptilians, is that we're always in a rush. We always want to get it done. Mm-hmm. And Capricorns are like that as well. So, double trouble. Yeah. So I do get impatient for doing the next thing, but I understand that there's a process to it, and there's always a reason for these things. Mm. So, they keep saying to me, it's okay. It's all in hand. And I'm like, quick, come on.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. You were talking about secret societies earlier. How were you approached?
Well, again, this was another very interesting experience I had. So I was abducted. I don't remember them coming into my bedroom on this occasion, but when I woke up, was in a circular room with stone walls, and there was a wooden door, a table and 2 chairs. And I was laying down on a bed, and I woke up and I thought, well, this is not what I'm used to waking up in, because normally it would be a military base, and just very, very different. So I sat there for a few moments, and then a man came in with a black robe, and he had the hood up, so I couldn't see his face, but from his energy it felt male. So I thought, oh, okay, so we'll see what this one is. This is a bit different. And he sat down at the table, and he gestured for me to sit opposite him. So I sat down, and he started talking about, oh, well, we want you to join the society. We think it would be very, very good for you if you joined. I said, oh, really? Would it? I said, so who are you and what do you do? Oh, well, that's not important. We just want you to join. It'd be very good for you if you do. It kept this emphasis on it would be very good for you. I thought, yeah, really? I don't think so. And I said, well, it would be very foolish of me to agree to something that I know nothing about. I know nothing about you or what you do or where we are even. And the fact that you've abducted me and brought me here, you haven't even asked me. It doesn't really bode well. I'm not getting a very good first impression. And he said, oh, well, it was all necessary. We just needed you here. I said, so you needed me here just to have a conversation? Well, we want you to join. I said, but you can't, I'm not going to agree to something. You're not telling me any information where we are or who you are or what you want me to do. Oh, that's not important. I just want you to agree to join. I said, well, I'm not prepared to do that. And he got very angry, and he knocked his chair over and went out the door. So I thought, oh, this is going well, isn't it? So I thought, well, he'd left the door open. I thought, well, I'll go out and see if I can try to find where I am or an escape route or something. And it led into this big room that was sort of a half moon shape. And to the left, there was like a few steps going up. And then there were these high-backed wooden chairs, like a little bit like thrones. Okay. And very tall windows. And that was all stone. So, I mean, there seemed to be, like a very, very old stone building. So he went to sit in one of those chairs, and there were other people sitting in these thrones. Everyone had black robes on, and they all had their hoods up, so you couldn't see their faces. Yeah. And then people started filing in to the room, again, with all the robes. And from their energy, some of them were human, and some of them were ETs, and some were hybrids. And they all lined up facing the thrones. And I was thinking, this is a bit weird. I don't like this. I thought, right, well, I'm just going to observe this and see what happens. So they were talking, and he was welcoming everyone to the meeting, and they brought this. It was like a wooden cart in with this ET being on it, with black and red skin. And ages ago, when I first did an interview, and I mentioned this, and someone said, "Oh, it's like one of the beings in a Star Wars movie." I don't know which one. And I did have, I think someone sent me a picture of it, and it did look like this being. So black and red skin, and then little horns.
Oh yeah.
Very yellow eyes.
Yeah.
And I sort of looked at him. I thought, well, okay, you're a bit different. So they wheeled him up to where the thrones were, and then the men in the thrones, it was all men, there was no women in these thrones, they all started talking to him, and they were trying to negotiate him joining this secret society. And he was saying, well, what am I going to get out of it if I'm going to supply my services to you? What do I get out of it? So they were negotiating.
Okay.
I thought, this is bizarre. I thought, well, just stay still and hope no one notices you standing in the corner. So they got to some sort of agreement, and shook hands, and then that was the agreement done. And they started wheeling him back. I don't know what the significance was of him standing on this wooden cart and wheeling him in. I don't know why he couldn't have just walked in. I don't know what that was about, but they wheeled him out on this wooden cart, and just as they were taking him out the door, this being turned and he looked at me. And when someone looks at you in a really nasty way, as if they just really want to hurt you.
Yeah.
Just for no reason, they just really want to hurt you. And I thought, oh dear, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, hopefully I won't ever see you again.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite work out like that. But that's what I was hoping in my mind. So everyone started to leave the room. So I thought, oh, great. If I stand really still, hopefully no one will notice me. They'll all leave, and then I'll try to find the exit. That was the plan. And I looked at where they were going out, and there was two doorways. And so they're filing out one way and the other. And then this one on my right, this reptilian being appeared in the doorway. 7 foot tall, scaly and tail, and the most beautiful colour skin. It's sort of, are you familiar with the Larimar crystal? That sort of turquoisey colour. Okay. And that was the colour of his skin. Absolutely beautiful. And I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, you're my son. Oh my God. Oh my God, what are you doing here? And it was just so bizarre. So the very first rape that I'd had with the reptilian, this was the child from that rape. And this was the first time I'd ever met him. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you can't be that tall because you're not that old. I was trying to do the math in my head. I was thinking, you can't be that tall. What? And then I'm thinking, have I been given something to make me think that this is my son? I thought, no. I would know my own child, and this is definitely my child. So anyway, he walks over to me, and we're speaking telepathically. And he's like, oh, hello, mother. And I'm thinking, how do you start a conversation? It's the first time you've seen your child. And he's like, taller than you, and saying, oh, hello, mother. So he could see I was a bit shocked. So he led me down the hallway and into this room. And we sat there and we were talking telepathically. And I said, what are you doing here with these people? And he said, oh, well, sometimes we're required to come to meetings. I'm thinking, this is very bizarre. And I'm thinking, how can my son be involved in something like this? And I said, you know, where's your father? And you know, to allow something like this to happen.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, he's trying to be patient with me, you know, his typical reptilian, you know, losing my temper, thinking, this is awful, you know, how can this happen? And he said, well, you know, this is just kind of how it is, mother, you know, just calm down. He said, you know, I've not been hurt and I'm not hurting anyone. It's just, we have to kind of show up and show our faces and then we'll go back home. And I'm like, not happy about this. So, and then I'm thinking, so what am I doing here? And then it dawned on me, the secret society had sort of planned this and thinking, if they show me my son, I'm going to think, oh my God, yes, I must join you. I must be here because I need to look after my boy.
Naughty.
And I thought, oh, holy cow. How do I get out of this one? And I thought, let's put that to one side, because this may be the only chance in my life I ever get to spend time with my son. So, you know, let's just enjoy it. So we started talking, and I said, you know what, okay, well, how are you? And I said, you know, you shouldn't be this tall. What's going on with that? And he said, oh, well, we can accelerate our growth. And they have a system where if you should be 5, they can accelerate you to maybe 10 or 15 or 20, which I thought was rather, you know, bizarre, because, you know, how about enjoy some childhood would be quite nice. So I said, okay. So he started asking me questions about, you know, being in human form and what it was like. And, you know, and again, we just take it for granted, you know, because we just go for a walk or go get the groceries or whatever we do. We don't think about it, do we? But he was really fascinated on how we live our life. And he said, you know, human emotions just fascinate me, and the human form. And I said, well, you know, how do you feel when you're in your human form? He said, well, I don't know if I've got one. I said, well, you must have one, because, you know, I'm your mother. And I, you know, have changed into my reptilian form and I'm in my human form. So logic would tell you, you can do the same. He said, oh, I've never tried. So I said, okay, lay down. So I put my hand on his chest and one on his head. And I just visualized his reptilian body morphing into his human form if he had one. That was my intention. And slowly the scales started to smooth into skin, and the tail disappeared, and he got a little bit shorter, not much, only to about 6 foot. And he turned into his human form, but, you know, lovely dark brown hair like mine. And he sat up and he just started crying. I thought, oh my God, it's the first time I've met my son and I've made him cry. I'm such a bad mother. And I said, oh, you know, why are you so upset? And he said, I didn't realize that you humans, you have so many emotions constantly. He said, how do you cope? We don't think about it, do we? Because you just, but he's right. Because every moment of the day, you're thinking about something which is causing some sort of reaction in your body. Yeah. Or you watch something, you know, maybe you're watching the birds singing and you're thinking, oh God, that's lovely. You know, and it really makes your heart lighter. And that's what he meant, is that every moment of the day, we are going through an emotional process. And in his reptilian form, he hadn't experienced that. He had emotions, but they were kind of separate. It wasn't a constant on a whirlwind of emotions all the time. So he found that really, really fascinating, but so overwhelming that it had made him cry. So he spent a little bit of time in human form, and then we changed him back into his reptilian form. And then, you know, and we just sat there, and, you know, I was hugging him, and I was just enjoying the experience of being with him. And 2 people come in the door, and his energy changed as soon as he saw these people. There was a little bit of a fear with him. And again, you know, the mother instinct kicks in, and you feel, okay, I don't want him to be worried or fearful. So I just got up and I went with these two people, and we went out the room, down the hallway, into another room. Again, this room was circular. And there was a group of people with the black robes and the black hoods. They were all standing around in a circle, holding candles. I mean, you know, if you'd have seen this scene in a horror movie, it would not have been out of place. It was bizarre. And the guy who had spoken to me originally about joining this society was standing in the middle with his candle. And I was pushed forward by these two people so that I was actually in the circle. And I heard the door open again, and this black and red being was brought in to stand in the circle next to me. And I looked around and I thought, this whole situation feels very ritualistic. You know, if you try to imagine a typical satanic ritual, yeah. You know, that's exactly what it was like. And I thought, yeah. Oh, Christ. So I thought, oh, well, if I die at this point, I've spent some lovely time with my son, and, you know, hey ho, what can you do? So everyone started chanting and holding their candles.
Oh, damn.
And I was pulled down to the floor on my back, and the guy in the black robe got a chicken and slit its throat and poured blood onto me and this being with the red and black skin. And then the red and black being got on top of me and raped me. So this was all part of the ritual. I thought, okay, well, that was different. So eventually he was finished and got off of me, and I managed to stand up, you know, covered in this yucky blood. And then it was obviously the end of the ritual, because the chanting had stopped. And the two people come back into the room, took me out and back to the room that I'd been in with my son. And they pushed me towards the bathroom. So, I mean, at that point, I was just on autopilot. I was so shocked by the whole experience. In my mind, I was just thinking, okay, yes, well, I'm all messy. So yes, I need to get into the shower and have a shower. And it was also, it was kind of, I think it was my way of coping. I was so shocked by having that done to me that I almost just kind of got into the shower and washed my hair and had a wash, and wasn't really taking in what had just happened. So got out, got dried, went into the bedroom, because that's what they'd taken me into. They'd taken me into a bedroom with an ensuite. And my son was laying on the bed. And I just stood there and I thought, I can't believe what's just happened. I can't, with everything that had happened, I don't know. There was just something about it that in a way felt even worse than the other rapes I'd had previously. That may sound strange.
Yeah, no.
But just the fact that there was a whole group of people there, rather than just me and the person raping me, and just the whole process felt even worse. So I was just looking at my son, and he had his eyes closed, and his tail was just flicking back and forth. And I don't know why, but I just started hysterically laughing. I think because I just wasn't coping. My body needed some release. I think it was either hysterically laugh or scream the place down. So my son opened his eyes and he looked at me, and telepathically he said to me, "Mom, I don't think you're okay, are you?" So there's me hysterically laughing, thinking, no, I'm really not okay. So anyway, he sat me down on the bed, and eventually I finished my hysterical laughing, and I said, "Well, I just, do you know what's just happened?" And he had the understanding of what had just happened, and I just couldn't get my head around it. And the fact that they deliberately had my son there,
disgusting,
made it all the worse. made it all the worse. If he hadn't have been there, I think I would have coped better. But it's that mother instinct of wanting to protect your son and to not want to have your child around disgusting, evil people like that.
Yeah. And
I think that I found the hardest thing to deal with, the fact that I couldn't protect him. I couldn't take him away from that. Because, no, I haven't. It's been very difficult, the things that have happened to me, but you sort of can deal with it. But when it's your children and you don't have a way to protect them, that is far worse than anything that can happen to you.
They really crossed the line there, I think, though.
Yes, I think so. And again, I think they thought by having my son there, it would make me agree then and there. Okay. Because I want to have, the offer was, well, you'd be able to see your son because you'd come to the meetings and he'd come to the meetings. But in exchange, they wanted to use me in the same way as the military to just breed from, because they wanted that genetics of the reptilian, the mantis, the lion being and the human, to partner with whichever ET they felt was applicable. And I said, I am not willing to do that. I've been through enough with the military. There's absolutely no way I'm going to agree to join you. And they said, oh, well, we might be able to negotiate with the military and have that lesson. And I said, well, what's the point? Because I'm going to swap that situation for the exact same situation.
Yeah.
Oh, but you'll be able to see I said, no, I'm not interested.
Okay.
I said, the sheer fact that you had my son here is disgusting, absolutely disgusting in my mind. And that's before we even get onto the subject of what you've just done to me is just disgusting. So that backfired, but it just goes to show you how they will try to manipulate you with your emotions, having your child there, and physically how they will abuse you to try to get their own way. It's and the amount of people around the world who have gone through this and are going through this is just incredible.
Yeah, Montauk, MK Ultra.
Yeah. It is crazy.
So, okay. So the other hybrids you were talking about, are they also reptilian too?
Well, the hybrids that were there.
No, the first the two girls and the boy that you talked about earlier.
Yes. So the two girls, the reptilian bit of their genetics they get from me, but not from their father. Okay. Their father wasn't reptilian. Okay. So it seems to be, when I've analysed this over the years, it seems to be the military have paired me with different ETs. Okay. To see what's the best mix is kind of the only way I can put it. Okay. And obviously not me, lots of other people. They want to get, as they feel, the perfect mix that brings together all of what they see the positive, strong aspects of the ET genetics are, but in a form that can be changeable. Okay. So with my little boy, he was in his human form, and they hadn't achieved getting him to change into his ET form. So to them, he was a failed experiment because they wanted him to be able to change at will between the two, and he didn't, because he had a little bit of stubbornness like his mother. He wanted to be in his human form, and he didn't want them to manipulate him and say, no, you change shape for us. So in their opinion, he was a failed experiment. Mm-hmm. I mean, how you could look at any child and say, oh, well, that was a failure is ridiculous. Yeah. But you see, the two girls, they'd taken a lot from their father, with this being very unemotional. And you could feel that they had a lot of respect for the woman that brought me in, the military woman who brought me into the room to see them all. They had respect for her. They saw her as something to aspire to be. They didn't want to be like their mummy. Now, I can't blame them for that, because they had grown up in that environment where they would be set tasks that they had to achieve. And this was all part of their training. And this, this started at childhood to get them young, to train them up so that when they're ready to send them out in the field on whatever missions, they will not question their orders. Whereas my little boy, would question everything. Yeah. He was very, very curious, very intelligent, but he didn't want to be controlled. And that was another reason why they saw him as a failure. Yeah. Because a soldier that they can't control is no good to them. I mean, yes, that he'll be earmarked for other jobs on the base, but not to be sent out on missions. Whereas the girls, they had that sense of they enjoyed doing a task and achieving. And you could see how the rest of their life, they would end up being sent out on missions. And in their mind, it's just another task. And if we do well, we're praised, because we've achieved that, we've completed it. And I can't blame them for that, because that's the environment that they've grown up in.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Well, it's a bit sad, but yeah, you can't blame them. Okay.
If that's all you know, then you don't question it, do you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've been at this for almost 2 hours, hun, so we could always call it a day. So yeah, you're lovely. I love your stories. But yeah, I can't imagine having children when you've gone through all of that.
It is. I mean, it's difficult because I have thought about this over more recent years as I'm getting older, about settling down and having children, normally, as you normally do. And I am very determined. I have met the children that I'm going to have already. I'm very blessed that they've shown me that. Yeah. And again, that was another way to say, look, there is light at the end of the tunnel, keep on with this. So I've met 3 children that I'm going to have. I've got twins. I've got a boy and a girl and another little girl. And when Cynthia passed away, actually, and I was communicating with her a lot, and I had an experience. I went to Glastonbury, which you might have heard of in England. I absolutely love it there. Just beautiful. And I had an experience while I was there, and Cynthia appeared. There was this craft in front of me, and the doorway opened up and some stairs, and Cynthia just walked down. And she was holding this little girl. And I mean, it was just wonderful to see Cynthia, because she's just such a beautiful being. So I was just so excited to see her. And she was holding this little girl. And as she sort of approached me, this little girl just turned her head and looked at me. And it was, the same hair as I've got, the same eyes. And I thought, oh my God, you feel familiar. And so, Cynthia, because she always used to say, hello, sweetie, how are you doing? And she said, I'm looking after your daughter. And until she's ready to be born, I'm looking after her. So don't worry, sweetie, we're having a whale of a time. So it was just wonderful to see Cynthia, but to then meet my little girl that I'm going to have was just magical. And I've met the twins as well. So I know it will happen. I'm just not quite sure exactly when. Wow. And I haven't met the father yet. So, that's quite key, I suppose, isn't it? So I know that that's on the cards when things are ready, when it's time.
Your story your story reminds me of Susie Hansen. She's the contactee from New Zealand. Personal friend of mine. And while she was, I think, the age of 16 or 13, she actually met her son on a craft, but in soul form.
Oh, lovely.
In soul form. Because she was introduced to a new friend. Then the soul came in through the door, and she was expecting another gray, but it was a soul. So she just started playing with the ball of light, And that's when the Greys came in, and they wanted them to interact, because when I think she was 16, she was brought on board a craft. Her temperature was lowered down to something cold, and then she was impregnated with the soul after that.
Okay. Oh,
So,
beautiful.
it reminds me of your story, which is really cool.
Oh, it'd be interesting to chat with her at some point. That would be lovely. Exchange story.
Yeah, it's I love these chats. So, thanks for coming on. It's been a blast.
You're so welcome, honey. It's been so lovely to spend time with you.
It's fun. I love these chats. I thank God we might not have these conferences going on anymore, but at least we've got this.
Yes.
I'm glad you came on today and you were able to share your story, because it really, I do think it helps people. It makes them aware of what's really going on. It's not what we're only seeing on TV. Well, anyhow, so thanks again for coming on.
You're so
lovely.
welcome, honey.
And so to those watching, hope you enjoyed today's show. More interviews coming up, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, everyone. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Gray, and thanks for watching today's episode. If you are an abductee, contactee, or experiencer, and you believe that your story could help others, please feel free to contact me through my YouTube channel email. When it comes to experiencers, the ET phenomena, and the future, remember, truth will out.